So today's lesson is comparing functions. Trayson, sit down. To compare functions, what you basically do is get the equation. Functions can be written in a bunch of ways. We saw a bunch of them. We can use fancy tables. We can use Venn diagrams. We can use graphs. We can use word problems. To compare them, you just have to write the equation for both and try them out. Does that make sense? So if somebody says compare the functions, what it means is find the equations and see how they match up. So let's look at number 1 here. It says Quentin is choosing between buying books. Well, that was weird. It went to a weird light here. Let's do this.
Hello, world.
It went to a weird light. Okay. It wants a lot more light. So Quentin's choosing between buying books. Turn and face forward.
Me?
Yes. At the bookstore, buying online versions of the books for his tablet. The cost, Y dollars, of ordering books online for X books is f of x equals 6.95x plus 150. The cost of buying the books at the bookstore is shown in the table. Which method of buying books is more expensive if Quentin wants to buy 6 books? Now, this f of x thing, what does that mean? Y. It's just y, right? Now, down in the table, you'll notice they put g of x. So what they did is I can have 2 equations. One will say f of x, and one will say g of x, and I can tell which equation is which. If both said y equals, then I'd have to remember which equation belonged to which situation. Does that make sense? So that's why we use the f of x function. So this one I've already got, and it says I'm looking for 6 books, right? Let's figure out how much 6 books cost if f of x, and x is what in this case? 6. So if f of x equals 6.95 times, what's x? What's x? How many books? 6 plus 1.50. So 6.95 times 6 plus 150. What does that equal? You guys will have to get your calculators out and get to working. How about do this? You haven't written anything I've written. It's a 6. What happens in f of x equations? Where x is, they'll tell you what x equals. So f of 6 means when x is 6, what does this equation work out to be? What'd you get, Tyler?
43 and like
43 $43 and
20 cents.
20 cents. Okay. So now we know what it is if I'm buying them online, right? These are online. Let's look at books at the bookstore. So how do I get the equation for the books at the bookstore? Is this a proportional relationship?
Yes.
How do you know? In a proportional relationship, every relation will be proportional. So it's y over x, right? What's 7.50 over 1? 7.50, right? Okay, what's 15 over 2?
7.5.
What's 15 divided by 2?
7.5.
7.5. What's 2250 divided by 3?
7.5.
Are you doing it or are you just... Landon, how about you join in? 7.5. How about 30 divided by 4?
That's still.
Is it still 7.5?
Yes.
3750 divided by 5.
Yes.
Now, why did I go through all of them?
Just to make sure.
Just to make sure. It's that one that you don't do it will get you. Well, this is a pretty easy equation then, isn't it? It's a proportional relationship. So if I write it as g of x equals, what's k?
Okay. 750.
750 x, and it's really plus 0. If I really want to write it in mx plus b, it'd be plus 0. I don't have to. So I want to know what g of x is when x is 6. And that equals 7.50 times 6.
Then solve.
And solve that. You don't even need to end solve.
Caitlin.
7.5 times 6.
45. That's
45. So which method was cheaper?
F of X.
F of x, right? Good job. So f of x is cheaper. By a couple bucks. But it's a couple bucks and you're a poor college student. So a couple of bucks is half a dinner. Okay, let's look at any questions on number 1?
What's the difference? No, never mind. I figured that.
There's a lot of conversation. Let's look at number 2. Jillian, you okay? Okay, number 2. It says Jamal wants to buy a new game system that costs $200. He does not have enough money to buy it today, so he compares layaway plans at a different store. What's a layaway plan?
It's like, it takes it off. It like takes
No, you
money off of
It-
Where you pay it off.
In my day, layaway was pretty common. Kmart was pretty famous for it. You'd walk in like around June and you start buying Christmas gifts. And you'd put a little money down, and every month you'd go back and add a little more money to it, and they'd hold your item in the back. And when you paid it off, you got to take it home. And if you didn't pay it off or you forgot, they got to resell it. They made a lot of money that way. So the first store is on A. Well, let's do the equation for this one. What's the equation for this line? Well, I know it's going to be y equals, right? What's the slope? Find two lattice points where they're exact marks, and this is a pretty good one, and this is a pretty good one, isn't it? Everyone buy that? Is it a positive slope?
Yeah. No.
Is it rising to the right or to the left? Mary? Stay with me, y'all. Rising to the right or rising to the left?
Rising to the left.
So it's a negative. Let's start there. So how much does it rise from here to here? From 80 to 100, how much is rising?
10.
20.
What's 80 to 100? What's the rise?
20.
20. And from 0 to 2, what's the run?
2.
So 20 over 2. Can that be simplified?
No.
10.
Yeah.
Number 1.
It's negative 10x. What is the b? What's the y-intercept there?
90.
90, right? So plus 90. So basically, the $200, he put $110 down, so all he owes is still $90, and he's paying $10 a week. Does that make sense on that? Okay, well let's look at the store B. They require a payment of $60 and weekly payments of $20 until it's paid off. Well, the initial payment is $60. That means I'm going to start somewhere different. Let's look at this one. Y equals, how much are they paying a month?
60.
No, how much
20.
per month?
20.
Am I adding to the amount I owe or taking away from the amount I owe?
Adding.
I'm adding to how much I owe?
Yes.
No, you're
If I give them, yeah, I'm subtracting. So negative 20x.
plus 60.
Now, it's not plus 60. Think about that. How much did the video game system cost?
200.
$200, and he paid 60. How much is left?
140.
140. That's his B, right? So this one I could compare these and figure out, but the graph, since it's there, is much easier. Let's go up to 140. And so 140, we go down 20 because that's our rise and run, right? 20 and over 1. And then I can make a line. The graph is actually fastest in this way. You could have completely ignored writing all the equations and just drawn the graph. Which one paid off fastest?
The graph.
Which one? Was it A
Oh,
or B?
A.
Look at it.
No, I meant B.
B, because B is done first, right?
Yeah.
In 7 weeks, he's got the game. The other system, he's got to wait an additional 3 weeks before he's got a game. Is that good?
Yep.
So, So you have some choices there. In this case, that graph was actually kind of easier to see, wasn't it? Which did you rather do? Just make the graph and not worry about the equation, or make the equation? Make the graph. Can you do it either way?
Yes.
Yes. As long as the answer is right all the time, you can use any technique you want to get there. I'm going to tell you that when you get to the STAR test, when you get to algebra, when you get to the SAT, a lot of times they're going to say, find the equation using this method. Well, they don't test you on the method, they only test you on getting the answer, don't they? So if you don't want to use their method, and you get the right answer, you're still right. Find many tools and use them as needed. So, in comparing functions, get them to some commonality. Usually that's an equation, although I tend to love graphs because they're pretty fast. And you can put those on your calculator too, can't you?
My line is perfect.
All right, any questions?